Hey guys, welcome back. It's Missy, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that is so frustrating, and that's co-parenting with a narcissist. When you co-parent with a narcissist, it's basically co-parenting with a child. They are pissed off that they didn't get their way, and they're almost like out to get you. So they will do things like they will smear your name, they will talk bad about you, they will try to manipulate your child into thinking badly about you, trying to fit their narrative, and it can be really hard and detrimental on your own mental health. So today we're going to talk about key things that will help you to co-parent with a narcissist a little bit easier. So first thing that's really difficult is you have to put your ego to the side when you're co-parenting with a narcissist for your child's sake. Because like I said earlier, they are going to smear your name, they're going to say terrible things about you, they're going to try to play a narrative and manipulate the situation like you are the bad guy. So they will test your patience. Not only are they going to say these things probably to you, but they also say things to your child, and your child's going to come home and say these things. And you're immediately going to want to go on the defense, of course, because your character is being assassinated. But the thing is, you want to learn to properly defend yourself. When someone says something negative about you and you defend yourself, you immediately are accepting that that fact is true. And then that person subconsciously is believing that you are that thing. So the thing is, you don't want to defend yourself in the way of saying like, oh, that's not true. Like, how could he say that? Blah, blah. You don't want to get on their level. You don't want to get to that negative place. You don't want to say negative things about their narcissistic parent, because then that just puts that child in the middle. You know, dad saying this negative thing, mom saying this negative thing, and then that child's put in the middle and they feel like they have to choose or they have to appease both. And that's never really a healthy environment. So this is the way you can defend yourself without getting defensive. So what you want to do is you want to ask questions to help your child come to their own conclusions, and you want to help your child have a mind of their own. For example, let's say your child comes home and let's say he says, Dad says that you're really selfish. And of course you have to take a deep breath because it's really hard to hear these things from your child. It's really triggering. So you want to take a deep breath and so you want to say, what do you think? Do you think I'm selfish? And then the child, they may say things that they already heard, or they may say no, depending on what it is. And so then what you want to do is you want to say, well, what proof do you have that I am selfish? So let's say the child comes up with some evidence that the dad says. Let's say the child is like, well, because you always go for spa treatments. I don't know. And you say, well, how does that mean that I'm selfish? Can't moms go and do things for themselves? Kind of ask your child questions to help them come up with their own conclusions. That way the child feels like they're able to have a mind of their own rather than feeling like they have to pick between their parents of who's right and who's wrong. That's one way you can defend yourself. Another thing is you can let them know, say, hey, listen, I don't feel that. Your dad can feel how he feels, but you don't have to be in the middle. That's not your job to be a part of what's going on with us. I want you to focus on yourself. So if there's ever a time that your dad is telling you things that are making you uncomfortable, you can let them know that you prefer not to hear it. And he may get upset, but remember, it's not your responsibility to fix if he's upset. Let him be upset and really just focus on you. When you tell your child that, they are then learning how to respond to their narcissistic parent rather than reacting, feeling like they need to fix it, feeling like they need to be responsible for their feelings. You are teaching your child how to reason, because when we're young, we don't know how to reason. We naturally think that it's because of us, it's our fault why something is happening. So by you teaching your child that that they are not responsible for their parents' feelings, you are helping them understand that it is not their job to fix it. So that's why it's important that when you are dealing with your child coming home and saying these things, or when the narcissist is saying terrible things and smearing your name, you have to really take a deep breath and accept that it's not true. You don't have to defend yourself in the way where you need to like attack and prove yourself. Like, this is where knowing, like, I know what's real, I know what's true, and I don't have to take what they're saying on. So when you hear these things to yourself in your inner dialogue, remind yourself it is not true. You know your truth. Because if you don't, you will then wind up on their level and you will start talking badly about their parent, or start, trying to desperately like convince your child that's not what's going on. And that never helps. It just winds up you in a deeper hole. The next thing that you want to do is you want to pick and choose your battles. When you are dealing with a narcissist, they don't really care about what you have to say. You have to accept that you can't persuade them. They are not able to take responsibility for things. They can't healthily communicate and have dialogue where you can compromise. It's not a give and take. So with that, you have to pick and choose what you need to make a priority. What is important? So for instance, let's say that they keep being a little bit neglectful about like coats. Like maybe they won't put a coat on your child in like 50-degree weather. That's something that you could just be like, okay, you know what? If they're a little bit cold, it will teach maybe your child to be responsible later on. I have to let that go. But let's say there's something bigger going on. Let's say that your partner is hitting your child or screaming at them every time something happens. That is when you make it a bigger issue and you let them know that is not tolerable. Now, this is the difficult part. How do you handle when you have to go up against a narcissist? So one thing is, like I said, is they will try to gaslight you. They will try to make you question your reality, question if you're correct in what you're saying, and they will belittle, they will degrade you, they will make it a terrible experience. They also will do something where they will have word salad. So they will try to say as many things as possible to get you confused and to take away from what you're actually talking about. So it's important that you don't get sucked into that. You need to make sure that you bring the conversation back to originally what you need to be talking about, as well as you don't want to get sucked into their gaslighting. So you want to make sure you stand firm in what you're saying, and you don't allow them to belittle or dismiss what you're saying. So you need to really be assertive in what you're saying. You have to be firm in what you're saying. Make sure you don't get sucked into their low blows or them trying to bring up the past or say terrible things. You need to keep bringing it back to the issue. You don't want to go down to their level. For instance, let's say you bring up the issue to them and they're like, well, you're a terrible mother because you don't do this, and in the past you've done this, and you're the reason for this, and then they'll just keep going. And you can stop them and say, you're entitled to your opinion, I don't agree, but what about this issue? And you keep bringing it back to the issue. And what happens is eventually they'll get bored because you're not reacting. You're not reacting to anything they're saying, and you keep bringing it back. It's basically you're doing the same thing with mindfulness. You're teaching them discipline of, listen, I'm going to go right back to what I'm talking about. I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to react. So then they'll eventually stop. They won't try to get a conversation. They will stop trying to get a reaction because they know it doesn't work. They can't trigger you because originally they know all your buttons to push, all the things to trigger you, but they'll stop because it's not working anymore. So they will eventually stop doing those things. Just know you can always walk away if they're being disrespectful. You don't have to sit there and take it. You still let them know that you still need to have a conversation, but you also let them know that you're not going to have the conversation when they are behaving the way that they are. And let them know if they're not going to figure out here, then you'll have to get a third party involved, like a mediator. A lot of people do have a mediator where they have someone mediate between the two. So if there has to be a third party that gets involved, then a third party gets involved. On your end, document everything. If you need to get your lawyers involved, then get your lawyers involved, and have some of those things written down in your custody agreement. So that way it's in writing. And sometimes narcissists, they're really afraid to go to court, so they will give in. And then other times they will make it this whole battle. But You have to really stand firm and fight for what you believe in. But by all means, you want to limit your contact with them as much as possible and only really talk to them when you need to discuss things about your child. So make sure you do what's best for you and your mental health and pick and choose your battles. What is important and what are things that you can just let go? The next thing is that you need to focus on what you can control and what you cannot control. So let's go into some things that you can't control. You can't really control what they're saying. You can't control what they're doing. You can't control the things that they say to your child. You can't control how others perceive you. But what you can control is yourself, your interactions with others, the way that you respond to situations, what you do in a day, your relationship with your child. So you really need to, when you start getting like frustrated, you need to sit and think, okay, do I have control over this? If it's no, then you need to tell yourself, like, I need to let this go. Like, I do not have control, and it's hurting me to sit and think about what is out of my control. What's in my control? Let me focus what's in my control. How can I solve this problem that is within my control? When you focus what's in your control, you can feel a lot more empowered rather than when you focus on what's out of your control, you feel helpless, you feel stressed, you feel angry. So you really want to think in an empowered state, like what's in my control, which kind of goes to the next point, which is making it a safe environment for your child. Make the relationship between you two the best you can, because that's in your control, the way that you talk and respond to your child. So one thing is that you want to have healthy, open communication with your child. You want your child to feel like they can come to you and talk to you about anything. So that's why it's really important that you kind of have to put your ego down, you put your ego to the side, and you don't react immediately to what your child's saying. You want to make sure that you're as level-headed as possible so your child knows that they can go to you, so they don't feel like they have to cover up or protect one or the other. That's why you don't want to put down the other parent. You just want to make it a place where they can communicate, so you're filled in, you know what's going on with your child. The other thing is that, like I said earlier, is you want to ask their opinions. You want them to feel like they have a mind of their own where they can share and express what they think, what's their idea about the situation. Because children are you're growing little adults, so they need to know that they have a say, they have an opinion, and they have ideas about what's going on. Because if they don't, they're just going to be on their own about these ideas. So you want it to be a place where they can communicate that. And then the other thing is you want to validate how they're feeling. Like, hey, I know it sucks having the environment you have. Or, I know that you're feeling this way and it's hard. Or like you could tell them, hey, I'm really proud of you, did a great job of, focusing on yourself. You want to validate your child as much as possible to keep them feeling empowered and forming that strong sense of self, because they are dealing with a manipulative, abusive person. Because at the end of the day, one of their parents is a manipulative, abusive person, and the only thing that you can control and focus on is your relationship and your dynamic with your child. So like I said, you really want to make them feel empowered and like they have values and ideas and opinions. But you want to do this where it's not like when they're sharing how they're feeling, you're making it a soundboard where you're agreeing with them and you're spilling all of your guts and how you're feeling. You just want to validate how they're feeling. But there's another component to it where your child is not dumb. Children are sponges. They feel what's going on. They know when you're upset. They don't say anything, but they know when something's going on. Children are pretty intuitive like that. So if your child says like, hey, are you sad? Don't lie to your child. That's never really helpful. That hurts the dynamic. That makes your child not feel like they can trust you. And then they're over there guessing what's going on. You can, on a simple level, like tell them it's healthy to express your emotions. Say, hey, I'm a little bit sad, I'm having a little bit of rough of a day, but I'm gonna be okay. I'm a little bit sad about some things, but I'm gonna be okay. You don't have to worry about me. So that way they're a little bit informed, but it's not too much where they're becoming the soundboard. And that gives them comfort. And also it teaches them how to deal with their feelings, that it's okay to express themselves. Because if you're telling your child to express themselves and then you're over here not, they see actions over words. So you want to practice what you preach. And the last thing, dads, moms, you need to make sure that you are taking care of yourself too. You need to make sure that you're having alone time. You need to make sure that when you have a rough day dealing with the narcissist, you have people that you can comfort yourself with. You need to make sure you have self-love and self-care things that you can rely on when you're having those rough days, and just continuously trying to check on your mental health, because if you don't, it's really hard to do those other things. It's hard to put your ego to the side. It's hard to have a healthy dynamic with your child. It's hard to take care of another person. So you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself too. You need to make sure you're constantly checking in with yourself and giving yourself the things you need. It's so difficult raising a child, but it's 10 times more difficult raising a child with someone that is not on the same page as you, and not only not on the same page, but is also abusing you and abusing your child too. It's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching, it's such a terrible experience, but it's something that you can manage, you can handle. This is another thing that's going to make you tougher and stronger, and it's another thing that is helping you grow to be the person you are. So you got this, hang in there. I hope some of these tools helped. What do you guys think? Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share with somebody that you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. What are we in, Grand Theft Auto? And please don't forget to like, comment, and share, and subscribe. And please don't forget to like, comment, share. Why am I having such a hard time? And please don't forget to like, comment, and 5th time's the charm. Must be this cold weather. It's getting to my head. It's freezing my brain.